Jesus said these words, gather the fragments that remain so that nothing is lost. And now I want to preach this morning. He's got 12. And how many baskets did they gather? He's like, gentlemen, I want you to understand what your ministry is. You're going to be giving God your best, and it's going to go far and wide. But it's not the big events when the people are healed and the miracles take place. That's where it's at. It's the follow-up afterwards. Our ministry is not to just go and see what God will do. Our ministry is to follow up and gather the fragments. Because there's a lot of broken people out here. There's a lot of people who can come and be healed. They can have their spine healed. We've had that here. They can have a headache immediately removed. They can have we've watched fevers instantly cured, things like that. And I'm not big into all that. You know, let's try and make all kinds of miracles happen. But my God heals people. I don't have to argue or defend it. That's what he does. But that's not what we're here for. And that's where some of the movements have gotten it wrong, because that becomes the show, and all they have are multitudes eating and fragments left scattered everywhere. Jesus says that nothing be lost. You see, our ministry as children of God, as disciples of the Lord, or whatever you want to call it, our ministry is to go around and gather the broken pieces. Because God says, that's what I take. It's not what you bring me whole, but it's the broken fragments that remain that you can gather. He can take this and do a whole lot more with it than us with our pride, just sitting there going, but I'm perfectly sliced. I've not been sat on. It's brokenness. And if it goes right back to the beginning of the story, Jesus, why did we end up feeding all these people? Jesus was moved with compassion. And if you can't have compassion for broken people, if you don't love the fragments, if you're not going to go out and gather 12 men in training, each come back with 12 full baskets, I think they got it. This is my calling. My calling is to gather fragments. My calling is to go and gather. My calling is to make sure that none are lost. This is what it is to be a disciple. And for one side of it, when you look at it and say, hey, it doesn't matter how fractured and fragmented my life is, Jesus says, I'm in the basket. He wants me. But the other side of it is, I've got to go out and help those people. I've got to go and bring them in. Our ministry is not one of fixing fragments. I don't know how to cure certain diseases in people's body. I can't heal people. It's God that does that. I can't make people believe. I can't take away their sins except by the preaching of the word. When I bring them Jesus and they believe, their sins are washed away. I didn't do it, but I brought them the message that caused it to happen. When they accept the truth and they say, yes, I want to identify with Christ in the waters of baptism, their sins are washed away. They can have the power of God, not because I can give them power of God, but I can give them the message that they can say, hey, I can bring my broken fragments of a life. And this is what God says is brokenness is how you enter his presence. He doesn't want anybody glorying in his presence. I got me here and I earned this. That's why he bypassed all the religious people and he's dealing with the fragments of life out on the shore. He's not at church. He's not in the temple. He's not in the universities. He's with the people who are just down-home folk that say, hey, God can use me and he can do so much more with that.